friends, I'm Kyla and welcome back to the Infinite Library, and today I'm doing the things that basically every other booktuber is doing at this time of year. It's the mid-year freakout tags. So I don't think I did this last year. I may have done, to be honest, but I've been watching other people's and it's kind of fun. And because I also haven't really been doing wrap-ups this year, I thought this might be good as just kind of like a halfway check-in point to see how my reading is going. Also very humid today, so if I look a little bit sweaty and gross, I apologise. It is midway through June at the moment. It is grey outside. It's probably going to rain later, but it is warm. Even though that doesn't stop me, given the Halloween vibes, even though we're nowhere near autumn. So yeah, this is a series of questions that I can't remember who it was originally done by, but see a link in my description below. I just pulled this from one of the other booktubers doing it at the moment. But yeah, it is just about the books that you've been reading this year and how you feel about them, really. So without further ado, let us go through the questions. Question 1 is the best book you've read so far this year. And that's really hard because I feel like the first 3 or so months of this year has been a really stacked, good reading year. Like, I've had so many 5 stars. It's actually insane. But then my reading has definitely kind of dropped off a little bit more in April, May, and in June, unfortunately, as well. I've not been having as good reading. So looking in terms of what are my favourite books though, it's really hard. I think it's got to be between 2 books, and I think it is either Blood Over Brighthaven by Emma Wang or Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. Both very different books, both kind of dark books, to be honest. Blood Over Brighthaven is an epic fantasy. It has a really cool magic system which involves magical typewriters, but the world building is so interesting in this book and I really liked where it went. I thought it was really smart. Yeah, I just really enjoyed it. It's also a standalone fantasy, which is kind of rare these days, although I would happily read more books set in that world because it was so interesting. And you're following the very first female mage, I suppose, her and this guy who is kind of like a refugee from outside of the city where they are, like one of the last of his tribe essentially, and they are kind of working together in this academy and they uncover some secrets that changes everything, and it was so good. I really enjoyed it. Bloom is very different. It is just a very simple cottagecore story about 2 women who fall in love, and one of them is kind of a psychopath, and it gets really dark and twisted, and I just really loved it. I read this in one sitting and I had such a good time with it, and it has just lived rent-free in my head ever since. I'm loving this whole contrasting these really cottagecore-y sweet storylines with it then twisting into a dark horror storyline, and Bloom was just perfect for me. I really want to read more by Delilah S. Dawson. So yeah, I don't know which one, to be honest, I would pick because both are so good. I'm leaning more towards Bloom, I think. They were both very good. Question 2 is the best sequel you've read so far this year. This one's hard because I actually haven't been reading very many sequels. I'm starting to read more sequels now because I'm focusing on actually working on series. But in terms of the best sequels so far this read, I've not really been loving a lot of the sequels I've been reading. I think I would have to say that either Witch Hat Atelier, because I've been continuing that series. I couldn't even pick one book out from that, but it's just been getting better and better with that series. It is a old style fantasy manga about this witch called Coco, who basically kind of stumbles into the world of magic and ends up learning to be a witch at this atelier with other witches. It's really sweet and wholesome with a lot of found family, as well as not being afraid to go darker, and the storyline is getting darker now, and yeah, really been enjoying that. In terms of other sequels, strangely enough, I kind of want to say Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I haven't got to Sunrise on the Reaping yet, so that probably will topple it once I do get to it, which I will be doing later this year. But I wanted to read Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes before I did read Sunrise on the Reaping. It is one of the prequel books for the Hunger Games series, which I read back in the day and really loved. I'm pretty sure I must have given them all like 5 stars or high 4s. And yeah, I went in with like not very good expectations of Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes because I feel like everyone I know who'd read it hated it. And I actually quite liked it. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Maybe because I went in with low expectations. Like, it was by no means like a perfect book. It's still definitely the weakest of the Hunger Games books, but it's still a Hunger Games book. And Suzanne Collin writes so well, and I lost my interest a little bit like after the actual Hunger Games in the book was over, but up until that point it had me. So yeah, I think it has to be one of those two for now. Nicely going into question 3, a new release you haven't read yet but want to. Obviously Sunrise on the Reaping kind of is one of those. I will be getting to it soon. Also Heavenly Tyrant, this came out at the end of last year and I didn't get to it yet, but I need to reread Iron Widow before I do, so those are probably my top 2 new releases that I really want to get to ASAP. I did have another book on here when I initially wrote this out, which was These Infinite Fates by Laura Stephen. I have actually now read it, and it didn't really hold up to me, unfortunately. I didn't end up loving it as much as I was hoping to. And I did have 3, but one of them was disappointing, so I'm really hoping the other 2 are not disappointments for me. Question 4, then, is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I don't just have one, I have a couple, to be honest. I have too many things I'm excited for. The new book by Ava Reid, which is the sequel to her study in drowning, Ethereal Dreaming. Really intrigued as to what she's going to do in that book. Bonds of Hercules, which is the sequel to... why have I forgotten? Blood of Hercules, which I feel like I was the only person that loved that book last year, but I did, so I'm really excited to read the next book in the series. Obviously, the sequel to One of the Many, which I think is coming out at some point late this year, maybe. The Strength of the Few, very excited to read that because One of the Many was one of my favourite books of last year that I read. The sequel to Long Live Evil, which... something about chaos? I can't remember what the title is. But yeah, Long Live Evil was one of my favourite reads of this year. It was just so fun. It was so like self-aware of itself and I really, really enjoyed it. So I can't wait to the sequel for that to come out. And then finally, I'm going to say Human Rights by Juno Dawson. This is the 3rd and potentially final book in her HMSC series, Her Majesty's Royal Coven. I really enjoyed that series, but I wasn't keen on the prequel book that she brought out last year, which was Queen Bee. I didn't really like that. But I am excited for this series to continue because I think it's just a really solid queer fantasy and I love all the characters in it. And the cliffhangers keep cliffhangering, so I'm hoping she doesn't leave us with yet another cliffhanger this book. Biggest disappointment. This one is hard. I kind of want to put These Infinite Fates into that, but it wasn't so bad that I like hated it. It was just kind of a 3-star book when I was really hoping it was going to be like a 4 or 5-star. Yeah, I have a couple for this one. Annibot, I read this earlier this year for a BookTuber favourite. I was really thinking I was going to love this and it just made me angry. It wasn't bad, but I couldn't rate it highly because it just pissed me off with what happened in the book so much, so I'd say that is a disappointment. I had an arc for Cruel is the Light, which is a new YA romantasy that is already out now, and I DNF'd it so early in. I just hated the writing for that, unfortunately, which is a shame because it had this really cool premise of like, what was it, like an exorcist and a god or something in the Vatican, and it sounded really cool, but I just did not gel with it, unfortunately. And in terms of other books that I read, one of my book club books, unfortunately, was a big disappointment to me, and that is The Last Bookstore on Earth. It is a sapphic YA book that basically happens after the storm kind of takes out a lot of the world, and the main girl in the book is kind of holed up in like her favourite bookstore and kind of keeping it going and using it as a place for people to drop in on. And then this girl kind of comes in and they end up trying to build the place back up so it's protected from the next time the storm comes. And I just really didn't like that. I didn't really know thematically what it wanted to be. Like tonally, I was expecting it to be soft and cozy, and it actually got very dark, and it ended up basically just being kind of Walking Dead, and it being about people just not getting along with each other, and I just didn't really enjoy it, unfortunately. It was a big disappointment for me because all like the marketing and stuff really made me think this was different tonally than how it actually was. That one is a big disappointment, I'm afraid. Biggest surprises then. I have two, actually. I want to say, funnily enough, the new Grady Hendrix book, Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, I enjoyed that book so much more than I thought I was going to. I was really apprehensive going into reading that book because it deals with pregnant teenage girls. And I was like, I don't know if Grady Hendrix is the right person to write about this. I don't know if he can do this sensitively. I didn't want it to come across as like exploitative or anything like that. But actually, I felt like he dealt with it really well. And I really enjoyed the book. Like, he really can write teenagers so well, I think, which is kind of a surprise. I actually also saw him at an event for this book where he did like a one-man show all about the history of witchcraft. And he really has done his research for this, and he's so like fascinated by it, bringing it into the modern day and that kind of thing. And yeah, it was just a really good book. And I'm really happy because, yeah, as I said, Grady Hendrix can be so hit or miss for me, but I'm really glad this was a hit for me. It wasn't quite a 5-star, but it was almost there. Another book that was a surprise was Bonesmith. This I read as part of one of my Treasure or Trash episodes where my friend picked a book for me, and it was a book that I kind of had on my shelf and I just wasn't really super interested in reading it, and it was actually so much better than I thought it was going to be. I keep saying that I think it's like mismarketed in how it looks, because I think people look at it and think it's going to be like a gothic horror story, and it's actually just a straightforward adventure fantasy, and it was really fun and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, that was a lot better than I thought it was going to be, and I'm definitely carrying the series on. Favorite new author. This can be a debut author or new to you. Even though I've only read one book by this person so far, I'm gonna have to say C.G. Drew. Don't Let the Forest In. Obsessed. That was also very high in the running for being my favorite book of the year. I think Bloom just tips it, but both of them have this kind of like foresty body horror kind of thing going on, and I love it. But yeah, really love Don't Let the Forest In. He's got like another book is out or about to come out, and then another book is also coming out late this year, so he's just giving me more books and I'm so happy, and they all sound brilliant. And yeah, I'm really excited to read more from him because I was obsessed with Don't Let the Forest In. Newest fictional crush. This is hard because I so rarely like crush on characters, to be honest, in books. If I had to pick on anything, I would say maybe Anna from The Tainted Cup. Like, she is so beautifully eccentric. I don't even know if I have a crush on her. I just think she's amazing and wonderful, and I love her. I guess, honestly, all three of the main characters from Silver Under Nightfall, they're all beautiful and hot, and I love them all together, and yeah, they are perfection. I guess any of those three, all of them together, yes. Newest favourite character. This one is hard. I'm gonna go back to Don't Let the Forest In. Actually, for this, Andrew, who is the prime protagonist of that book, I really related to him. I really appreciated him in the book, how the author dealt with his asexuality, with his anxiety, with stuff that had happened to him that you don't realise until later on. And I thought he was just really beautifully written, so I really loved him. On a complete flip side, however, I also really love the Golden Cobra from Long Live Evil, which from what I've heard, everyone who reads Long Live Evil loves the Golden Cobra. He is like always everyone's favorite character. He's just like this fun character who is like one of the villains, but also really fun and a great time. He is such a good duo with the main character, Ray. So yeah, one of those two, I think, were completely different tonally. Book that made you cry. Don't Let the Forest In. Made me cry, definitely. Also, annoyingly, I say this because I didn't even like the book that much, but Happy Place did make me cry a little bit, even though I in general wasn't crazy on that book, but some of the things it dealt with did kind of get to me. So I guess that too. Question 11. A book that made you happy. Okay, I have a couple for this one as well. Silver Under Nightfall I've already mentioned. That was just such a fun book. I really, really enjoyed it. I can't wait to read the sequels, so definitely that one. Long Live Evil as well, that was very much a case of I was actually starting to read the book slower because I didn't want it to end. I was having such a good time in the world and reading the book. I was kind of like deliberately reading it slower on purpose so it wouldn't end. And also, weirdly enough, because it's a romance, Best Hex Ever by Nadia El Fassi. I wasn't like super crazy on some of like the more spicy elements of the book, but it was a book that really hit me. And I really enjoy the focus on friendship and family and the struggles the main character had, and like the cozy kind of setting of her being like a kitchen witch rather than a witch with lots of power. And I just thought it was really good and really cute. And yeah, I'm really happy that I read it. There's a whole like coming out story to do with bisexuality in the book, which I thought was really well handled. And it was just really solid overall. So yeah, those three I think of the books that made me happy this year. Okay, most beautiful book I've bought this year. I feel like I have to go get this from my shelves to show you, so hang on. Ironically, they're both right next to each other on the shelves as well because I have them kind of colour-coded. But this one, I think it's absolutely gorgeous. The Scorpion and the Night Blossom by Emily Winslow. I just love the colour tones on this one so much, I think. The foiling is so pretty. And yeah, I don't generally go for these like darker coloured red ones, but I just think this one is absolutely stunning. I just really love the colours on it. So that is definitely one of them, which by the way, this was Fairy Loot Adult. And then also the Illumicrate edition of The Raven Scholar. Like, the cover is not the best thing ever, but like, I love the sprayed edges so much. They're absolutely gorgeous. And I think from what I remember, under the dust jacket is gorgeous. Yeah, let me take that off. So, I love the purples. And I just keep looking at the sprayed edges on this one constantly, and I think it's so pretty. So I think those two are like my two like favourites in terms of pretty books I've had this year. And then finally, what books do you need to read by the end of this year? So many. Basically everything that is in my like TBR section I would love to get to. I'm realistically not getting to them all because it's like 300 books, but I would really love to get to them. Try and get through as many as possible. In terms of like priority TBR, I really want to focus on finishing some series. You can see which ones in my series like reading tracker video that I released recently. There's some books I've just been putting off reading for like no reason. So like the final Emily Wilde book, Sunrise on the Reaping, Heavenly Tyrant, the sequel to Crimson Moth as well, I still haven't got to yet. So those I really do want to get to. I've got a copy of The Favourites that I borrowed from the library by Lane Fargo, which I'm really excited to get to. It is a figure skating Wuthering Heights retelling, which very up my alley. Yeah, basically those I think are my main priorities. I would like to read a few more mangas. I really want to prioritise reading more Higurashi and maybe catching up with that series, but just many books essentially. So that is it for the mid-year Freakout tag. Feel free to put your own things in the bottom down below. Feel free to do this yourself if you want to. I'll put the questions in the description for you if you want to have a go at this. It was really fun, and yeah, a good way just for me to reflect on what books I've read this year. So, as always, until next time, stay safe, stay cozy, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!